Hello, friends. Welcome to Klamath. This is Season 3, Episode 9, happening here tonight from our downtown studios here at Klamath Falls News. Joining us today is Klamath County Sheriff Chris Kaber. Chris, thank you for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
We're going to be talking about the department funding, jail, patrol, your special units, a lot of things going on. We're going to be taking questions that came in early. Thank you for doing that. Unfortunately, due to Facebook's issues today, we are not actually streaming this live. We won't be able to take your live questions. We do apologize for that due to Facebook's issues. But before we get to all those questions, Brandon, roll that intro. Hello, friends. Brian Galey here, Klamath Falls News. Welcome to Ask Klamath. As I said, Season 3, Episode 9, joined today by Klamath County Sheriff Chris Kaber. Our 30th episode. I can't believe this. Thank you for being our guest here for our 30th. It's kind of a milestone.
Fantastic.
So a little bit of background on Sheriff Kaber for those who don't know him. Sheriff Kaber grew up right here in Klamath Falls, graduated from Klamath Union High School in 1977. Kaber later married his wife Vicky in 79 and worked at Weyerhaeuser for 8 years. When they started their family, they now have 3 grown children, 7 grandchildren. Congrats on all the family.
Thank you.
Sheriff Kaber first started working with the Oregon State Police in 1987 in Hermiston, right?
Correct.
As a patrol trooper, and then later transferred back here in 1990. 26-year career with OSP, and has been a trooper, resident trooper. That's where you kind of live and work in the same area, right?
I did in Rocky Point, Oregon.
Okay. Patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and ended his career as a regional polygraph examiner for the OSP. I bet there's a lot of cool stories there to go with that, isn't there?
I have some. I get in trouble when I tell them over and over again, though.
Well, we may have to do that off camera sometime.
Very good.
You ran your own private polygraph company for 3 years before making the decision to run for sheriff, and now here you are.
Here I am.
So there's a lot of stuff in there. There's got to be some gaps. What happened in that area that we didn't talk about?
Well, when I was working at Weyerhaeuser, I caught a little bit of a bug to think about working in law enforcement. I had some friends there, and so I got encouraged to do that, actually. And so I applied for the Oregon State Police in 1984, and I just missed an academy that they had, and it was a 3-year lull before the next one, so I got picked up in the next one.
Okay.
At that time, I was 28 years old, so, I wasn't exactly a young man. I was in my mid-20s, late 20s. I started my family. We were doing good, so it was a big change for our family to go from living here to being basically transported across the state and start to work in another community.
Awesome, and big difference between mill and law enforcement, I would imagine.
It was. There was a transition period in there, by the way. The mill, and a lot of people might remember back in that time, there was the spotted owl thing going on, and mills were struggling, and there was layoffs going on. So I took a job actually with a coffee company. So I got into sales a little bit for a couple of years in the meantime.
Okay.
And that was very helpful for me actually going into the career, because it forced me to go out and meet people and cold call people and actually communicate with people.
Very cool, very cool. So why law enforcement? What drew you to it?
I was always interested in law enforcement. And at that particular time, as a young man in my 20s, I had several friends of mine that were state troopers. And that's why, at that time, I only considered the state police. They encouraged me. I admired each and every one of them. And so, I just kind of followed after them.
Okay. So you're about 2 years in now? 3 years in?
A little over 2.
A little over 2,
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on 3rd. How have you enjoyed your time as Klamath County Sheriff?
Well, that's a really good question. First off, I think it's where I'm supposed to be. And so we've made a lot of great improvements over the last couple of years, in my opinion. And the first year was rough. I've got to tell you, it seemed like there was a lot of things that were broken or decayed or in some sort of disrepair just over time that had happened. The money was really tight back then. There was layoffs and there was other issues going on. I've been blessed with the commissioners that have helped me through that period. That first year was tough, though. But since then, I've really come to appreciate the job. And most days, I just have a blast doing what we're doing.
Cool. What is your favorite part of your job then?
The favorite part of my job right now is watching the team work. I kind of restructured the department, and so I've got a lieutenant running the jail and everything related to that, and I've got another lieutenant that runs our operations or everything else. I kind of consider it jail is one side of our office, and everything else is the other side, and that includes a lot of different things. And I enjoy watching them work because I think I made good selections in that area. I think both of them are well suited for what they do, and every day brings its set of problems and difficulties and decisions that need to be made, but watching that team work is very enjoyable.
Cool. What would you say is your least favorite part of your job?
Well, we're in the people business, so sometimes people let you down, and so I would say that dealing sometimes with personnel issues, or sometimes I'm discouraged when things don't work out exactly the way I want them to. But that's not unique to law enforcement. I imagine that's everybody that's in a business or working in the community faces those certain things. I really can't pick one thing that I would say would be my least favorite, but.
Yeah, people is a double-edged sword, isn't it? It can be your best and your worst.
It is.
Yeah, it can be pretty tough there. So with that, if there's anything in your job that you could change, what would that one thing be that you might change? If you could just wield the wand around and make it.
Well, if I could change one thing, that meth would be completely unavailable in the United States, but sincerely in Klamath County. Methamphetamine, underlying problem with a lot of things, even down into the property crimes and that sort of thing. So I would get rid of meth. I would love to have a stable funding source for public safety. And I'm not just talking about the sheriff's office. I'm talking about all the public safety entities. That is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about and worrying about and trying to justify our use of those fundings. And I get that, but it always seems like it's a bit of a fight for it. And so just some stability in that would take a lot of that grief away from each and every one of us that runs, a law enforcement or a fire agency or something like that. I'm not going to give you just one. There's a few things else I'd like to change.
Okay.
And these aren't just, and once again, these are kind of broad things, Brian. We deal a lot with youth that some parents just aren't parenting very well. I'd like to see some parents do a better job, actually. The schools and that sort of thing, people are stepping up and trying to help, with the youth in our community. But a lot of times it's the parents. And I'm certainly not casting blame on all parents, for crying out loud. I've got kids of my own and grandchildren and everything. But, I would like to see a little bit of better parenting from time to time.
I can understand that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
It's difficult to work with young people making mistakes, and so it's hard.
For you, you seeked some advice. See if I can get my words to come out properly here. When you first got started in law enforcement, you just said you had some friends in Oregon State Police that kind of helped guided you there. If somebody's looking for maybe a career in law enforcement, maybe they're in high school now, or they're maybe seeking out a college career or something like that, what would be some advice you would give them?
I do get asked this kind of question quite a bit. People want to know, they've got their kids growing up that want to get into law enforcement, or people contact me. And usually they're young, and they're eager, and they're trying to look at law enforcement as a career for them. And I don't mean to discourage anybody, but really my advice to them is to do something that gains you some life experience in your young age, because that's going to play really well when you finally do get that law enforcement job. The 21-year-old or 22-year-old, maybe right out of college or didn't go to college but just been working a couple of years, that's great. And once in a while we hire those people. But typically law enforcement agencies look for the person that's had a little bit of life experience, whether it's with a family or with a career doing something else, or with the military or some other experiences, just to bring that maturity level with them, because we are in the people business. And it takes a little bit of maturity, and it takes a little bit of knowledge and some wisdom to deal with the things that get thrown at you.
I would imagine so.
So I would say don't get in a hurry. It's one of those things that I believe is always going to be there. There's always going to be a need for public safety and people to work in those jobs. So if you don't get in a hurry, you just build that platform for yourself, then I think you'll be better off in the long run.
Awesome. Don't get in a hurry, she said, sir.
Yeah.
No speeding tickets on life, right?
Yeah, it'll be there for you.
Is there a degree program somebody might focus on while they're in college?
That's another thing, is people assume that a criminal justice degree is going to be the ticket in. And certainly a lot of the things you would learn in that sort of a program are applicable. But really any kind of a degree program works. Most police agencies that I've worked with or for or been a part of in their hiring processes, they recognize a degree is a degree. It just proves that you've spent some time accomplishing something,
Right.
and that's what's important.
A lot of businesses I know, when they're looking for something like that and they want a college degree, it's to show you're trainable and you can commit to something.
Exactly.
So
You can write reports. You can do the necessary reading and learning that goes along with that. You can keep up with those sorts of things. You've proved that by going to a college. And so any degree would be beneficial.
awesome. Well, thank you, Sheriff, for answering those questions. We're going to take a break. Guys, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Threads. There are many threads that run through our region. There are churches and schools and Little League teams that bring us together and bind us into communities. There are roads and cars. There are houses and jobs and businesses, all woven together to make the fabric of our communities. There are financial threads that are part of that tapestry as well. For over 80 years, it's been our pleasure to be headquartered here, providing financial services to generations of our friends and neighbors. From that first savings account, to retirement planning, and all of the cars and houses and groceries in between, we keep your money local, investing it back into our communities, adding more threads to the fabric to make our communities stronger. Pacific Crest Federal Credit Union. Find your path.
You can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rourke, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
vests,
or reflectors,
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
we've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey, Klamath Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. Today, we're joined by Sheriff Chris Kaber. Already had some great things talking about his background and some great suggestions you had about how to get involved in case somebody wanted to get into law enforcement. Basically, take it slow. No speeding tickets in life. I like that. This section is actually brought to you by the Klamath County Fairgrounds, happening this weekend. Actually, happening Saturday is a busy day down there. Casablanca is a fundraiser for CASA is happening. The Ducks Unlimited will be having their annual dinner, as well as the SNAB board, Special Activity Needs Board, is going to be having their St. Patrick's Day dance. You can learn more about what the fairgrounds can do for you and they can host your event as well. Learn more over at kcfairgrounds.org. Sheriff, you ready for some more questions?
Absolutely.
All right. So you touched it a little bit in our first segment about funding and how you wish you had a secured funding source. I'd like to actually talk about that just a little bit. How is the Klamath County Sheriff's Office funded?
Well, every year, just like any other department in the county, we present our budget to the county commissioners. You know, the county commissioners control the strings, if you will, on how those monies are allocated. They have general fund monies available to them and some other sources. So we present our budget to them, and we talk about it in a work session or two, and we kind of try and work out the bugs. I get to present what I think we need going forward, and they have, of course, their input and their they've got their limitations. There's only so much money to go around. So we discuss those things. It ends up in a budget committee meetings, we're in the middle of that right now, by the way, in another month or so we'll be before the budget committee to try and finalize a budget.
And that's going to be for 1920, right? 2019, 2020?
Yes, for 2019 and 2020 budget. And so I've already presented my budget to them. They've already looked at it and made some suggestions where they think I should probably cut. But that's okay. That's all part of the process of trying to come to what's best for everybody. And so the majority of our funding comes from the general fund. In the budget year we're in, I would say right around 66% of our funding for the sheriff's office comes from the general fund.
Okay.
And then, of course, most people know that there is some money available we call it the road funds, but it's it's the money that comes in that's I'm drawing a blank on what they call it now. But anyway, the federal monies that come in for us to use, some of that can be allocated for patrol services. So in the past couple of years, we've been needing to use some of that. Last year, I think we're at $1.5 million for the year to subsidize our budget. And then on top of that, we actually bring in a lot of other revenues in a lot of other ways, such as grants. We have quite a few grants that we work under, either fully or partially funding portions of our department, as well as some fees that we charge for things like concealed handgun licenses and those sorts of things that we do.
So there's a couple of offsetting things besides just the taxes themselves, like you say, the handgun licensing. Does ticketing come into factor with that too? If somebody gets stopped and ticketed?
Yes and no. It's a very small amount. Most of our citations that we write for traffic violations or some of the other marine violations and things like that we do end up going through the justice court. So when the justice court fines are assessed, there's a small amount of money comes back to the county from that.
Okay.
But it's insignificant, if you will.
So it's not there to be a funding source, but maybe a way for people to remember to do what they need to do, right?
Yeah, it's not a funding source at all of any significance.
What would you say are your three biggest expenses in your budget that you're proposing?
Well, the biggest expense always is personnel. I don't know the exact figure, but when we look at our budget, we divide it into three general categories. We have the jail and all the personnel involved with that. We have the patrol division, and then we have the civil division. So between those three main divisions, personnel is at the top of the list in every single one by a good margin. I would say roughly 75% of our entire budget goes to personnel.
Oh, wow.
We have a lot of people that work at the sheriff's office in different functions. So, with their wages and their compensation packages and all of that together, it adds up pretty quick. So one of the other things we spend a lot of time considering is how we spend our money for supplies. And then, of course, the most visible thing to the community would be the vehicles that we drive and the equipment that we need to do our job. So that is another big piece of it. Training is something that gets overlooked quite a bit. Training is not cheap. And oftentimes it's one of those things that you think you can get away with a little bit by cutting back on. I actually believe that's not a good policy. So we have upped our training for everyone in the office quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Nice. It's good to hear that. I like to know everybody's on their toes and train on the latest stuff. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, we got a little creative. I have some creative people that work for me, more creative than I do. They looked for other ways to get training. And now we have online training. We've purchased programs where we get daily training briefings. We have our people that are held accountable to follow those. So it's a little bit of a pain if you're going through your normal work week and the sergeant sends you something that says you've got till Friday to get this hour training done. You work it in. You can do it, a little bit here, a little bit there. But, by the end of the week, you got a couple more hours of training in and you get to learn something that you didn't know before.
Nice.
And that's on the jail as well.
Cool. So those would be your biggest expenses. Now, you did touch a little bit on the cars, the most visible things that you guys have, your patrol vehicles. How often are those replaced? When do they get replaced? How much does it cost on your vehicles? I know all of our audience is out there going, wow, the cars.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to I don't want to sound defensive. However, the vehicle that our patrol people drive, it really is their it's not just their transportation, but it's their office. That's what they work out of for their entire 10-hour shift. It's a place of protection. If they need to hide behind their car or get in their car, it's a way to take care of a lot of things that need to be done. That vehicle's important, and they can't help anybody if they don't get there safely.
Right.
So 2 years ago, for example, we did a little bit of a survey. Most people will remember the black and white Crown Victorias that we drove and we drove and we drove. And, the repair costs on those were great and terrible. And actually the commissioners have helped us move towards a process where we are now in a position this year, this will be the first year that we are on a program where we're only going to replace a couple of patrol vehicles a year as well as one specialty vehicle. Now, a specialty vehicle could be anything from a jail transport van or a pickup to pull the boats for the Marine Division. We're purchasing one of those. We have forced contracts. We're actually going to be purchasing a forced contract vehicle as well. So there are other vehicles that we need to buy that aren't quite so obvious. But our patrol fleet itself, we've rejuvenated that to the point where instead of buying 3 or 4 or 5 a year, we're down to 2 a year. That's what we're hoping for this year. So I think we can maintain that. A couple a year, one specialty vehicle, either on the patrol side, the civil side, or the jail side, and I think we can make that roll for a long time.
Very cool. So how much does a patrol vehicle cost from start to finish? The vehicle, the outfitting of it, the computers, the sirens, everything?
Yeah, I'm going to give you some round numbers, and some of the costs just went up from the last purchase to
Don't
the
they
one
always?
we're in right now. So we are purchasing, we made the decision a couple years ago, that Dodge Durangos were a utility vehicle that works well for Klamath. It's not a car, it's not a pickup, but it gets us where we need to go, and it gets us there efficiently. And so those are running through our ORPIN contract or our state contracts. We're usually getting those around $32,000 to $35,000 for the vehicle. Now, the ORPIN contract is basically it's a buying pool, and so not every dealer is part of the ORPIN system. That's where we can get our best deal on vehicles. So typically for our patrol vehicles, that's where we've been going. Now, to upfit them, that's where the prices have really gone up. I can remember a couple of years ago we were paying $8,000 or $9,000 for all the emergency equipment, whether it be the cage is what we call it, the radios, the roll bars that we need, the lighting systems, the sirens, and all that upfitting that goes into that, enhancing that vehicle to make it safe at the speeds and the places where our guys need to go. And so that has gone up to around $14,000. So we're looking at, roughly $50,000 to $52,000, depending on the year, to fully upfit the vehicle. And that's to put our decals on it, and the tires that come with a brand new rig aren't the same that we would want to use. So, we have a way of swapping out those new tires and getting full credit for them towards the tires that we really need, which are either pursuit rated or some other tire with a higher rating. So that's a long answer to your question.
That's a long answer.
$50,000 to $52,000.
$50,000 to $52,000. Now, you mentioned ORPIN, and that's the place where you got to go to get the cars, right? It's kind of a bid, the dealers bid in. Do local dealers participate in that, or do you have to buy from the valley, or how does that work?
It's a place that we can go. Of course, we're spending public funds, so the best price we can get, that's where we need to go.
Right.
But it's not necessarily exclude anyone in Klamath. We've purchased vehicles here as well. If I'm correct in this, I don't believe there's any ORPIN contracted vehicle retailers here. So we end up going up to Salem, actually. And people may even see Withnell Dodge on some of our rigs, some of the mud flaps or something, that have just remained on there. But typically that's where we've gone for the patrol vehicles. But we've purchased 3 cars for detectives here. We purchased, 4, and some other vehicles we have purchased locally. In fact, one of our recent purchases we're getting from Lithia here in town.
Oh, very nice.
Because we couldn't get it any cheaper through ORPIN than we could get it here. So, of course, we'd like to purchase it here.
Awesome. That sounds good.
Exactly.
Love to be buying local and keeping local things going, local money and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So I know there's a lot more with budget and funding and things we can talk about, but we got a lot of things that I wanted to try to cover here tonight. Employment is a big thing, and I hear that from a lot of businesses that they're short staffed and for a variety of reasons. How is the staffing and employment with the sheriff's department? How are we looking?
I'm going to tell you that we had an employment problem. We had a staffing problem. We don't have that problem anymore.
Nice.
We still have a geography problem, and people have heard me say that before. Klamath County is still over 100 miles from south to north, and we have a huge area in the north part of the county that's underserved with police protection, and we know that, and we're working on a couple of things. But when it comes to staffing, a couple of years ago I came in, there's so many positions allotted to the sheriff's office, and so many of those positions weren't filled. We had 20% of them were not filled. So even though we had funds available for another lots more people, they weren't filled because the deputies were leaving for other places. There was some insecurity feelings, I think, with some prior layoffs, and every year the budget would come up and there'd be talk of laying people off. You can't really do a good job of employing professional people if they think they might lose their job every year.
Right.
So we fixed that, and it's not just me. I mean, with a lot of help from my friends and the commissioners and everyone else, we've had some assurances that that won't be happening anytime soon. So because of that, we were down 20% in staffing. We are currently only down 3%, and that's even after adding a few more positions. So we're not completely 100%. In fact, we just had a deputy in corrections that we were all planned to hire. He changed his mind just today, so we're a little disappointed. So we have another opening there, but we're working on that all the time.
So you said the employment is looking good. You were just down 3%. Does that mean the jail is fully open? All the pods are going, and all the beds are able to be used?
Yeah, the pods have been open regardless, but we've had to basically burn our deputies out with overtime and extended shifts. But that has even dropped off significantly. Our jail is essentially for personnel is full. We have one opening there right now, but it's been a significant change in our overtime expenses. It's a 365-day-a-year business. If someone calls in sick, we don't just get to say we'll just run short.
Right.
So somebody has to come in and fill that, and so that's where we're at. All pods are open. Everything's working really well at the jail. In fact, one of our biggest successes has been the turnaround at the jail.
Okay. Jail is actually one of the things I wanted to talk about in a little bit, so I don't want to get into that too much right now. We'll get to that after the next break. Are you looking to be hiring more deputies right now? You said you're 3% short, but you actually just today had another spot. Are you always taking applications, or how does that process work?
Yes and no. We use a system through the county that people can apply for jobs through the county. So from time to time we open it up. We've run the gamut. We've either asked only for lateral deputies in either corrections or patrol, and we've got good responses. And there's been times early on, especially when we needed a lot of people. So we've opened it up for anybody to apply. Then we run our testing programs. It usually whittles them down really good. We've had as many as 50 or 60 people apply for jobs there. When it came down to testing, half of them show up. By the end of the testing day, we're down to about 10 people, and that's just the way it is. And so if we have 50 or 60 people apply and we're down to 10, and really only about half of those are going to complete the process, that's just what we have to do. So we're doing well on our hiring. We got really good at it. It was rough at the beginning, but we've kind of refined the process, and we've kind of got down to a system where it seems to be working.
Now, for those people that are making a cut, what is it you're looking for that cut? That, are you looking for, is it physical? Is it mental? Is it their background? What are you looking for in a deputy?
Well, we have minimum requirements, and quite frankly, they're just not all that stringent, but they get down to the minimum requirements, whether it be a written exam, and there's a physical agility test that's required. We required initially because in order to be certified at the state level, they're going to have to complete those obstacles anyway.
Right.
So we try and screen right up front. If you can't complete them now, you probably won't complete them when you go to the academy. So using the academy standards for that, that kind of does that for us.
Good.
But, we interview them orally as well if they complete the first two phases of that. Someone needs to be able to sit and have a conversation with us. And so communication is a huge part of it. Just being
would
able to
imagine.
talk to somebody. And so sometimes that plays out pretty well. You know, people are nervous when they're interviewed for jobs and that sort of thing. We get that. But just being able to have a conversation with a few people and answer a few simple questions, you know, that tells us a lot. So we kind of, in a way, get an idea for, let's say, who the top 5 people are, and then that's just one part of it. There's more.
There's a whole lot more. I would
There's a lot
imagine.
more.
And that's probably another hour show by itself, just talking about those things.
Right.
So for people who may not be able to cut it, or maybe they're seniors, or maybe they're doing some other things, do you have volunteer positions or positions available for citizens where they can help out as well?
Yeah, we're actually, we have as many volunteers almost at our office as we do full-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we you know, one of the mandated services for a sheriff in the state of Oregon is to make sure that a search and rescue unit is available. And so we are fortunate, really fortunate, to have a very vigorous search and rescue unit of volunteers. And so I plug them every chance I get. But as smaller portions of that, we have a small boat rescue unit, we have a posse, we have a mature volunteer program, which currently I think we have 8 people in our mature volunteer program, and they do all kinds of things for us. They've implemented, if you see the Klamath County Sheriff's Office radar trailers alongside the road,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that is run through our MVP program, Mature Volunteer Program.
And actually, I think we might have a picture of one of those, don't we? The ATV? The radar trailer. There it is. So the example right there.
Well, there's 2 of my volunteers right there. So, you know, excellent example. You know, a couple of years ago, I pulled into the parking lot for the first time, and there's 2 broken down radar trailers there. So I had a mature volunteer, wanted to know what he could do, and I said, see what you can do about getting these running. If they're not going to work, let's get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he not only got them working, he began the program of going out, an outreach program, and trying to find people who wanted them on their street, or who
nice.
wanted to supply their driveway or their property for us to put it there for a day.
I know a guy who would like to have that.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, well, get a hold of our MVP program. You know, they also, the volunteers, the MVPs in particular, started once again a house check program. So if you're going to be gone from your house for a while and you'd like the MVPs to swing by once or twice a week to kind of drive through the property, check the doors, make sure everything's okay, they do that. And so it's amazing, actually, the things that they do for this community. So I'm very, very proud of them.
Nice. We're actually going to be talking about search
I've
and
got
rescue.
other volunteer
You got more
programs. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Oh, okay.
Dive rescue. We've got a dive rescue program as well. So we've got a North County. If anybody in North Klamath County search and rescue, we have a North County search and rescue unit as well.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I didn't miss anybody on that. But I mean, it's great. It's super wonderful.
There is a lot of things, and I know search and rescue is one of those things we're going to talk about here in just a moment. You guys, after our break, you guys just got a new vehicle and put it to work almost immediately.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Purchased locally, by the way.
Purchased locally. That's a bonus. So, guys, we're going to be taking a break. 2 minutes. We'll be right back with more with Sheriff Chris Kaber.
Threads. There are many threads that run through our region. There are churches and schools and little league teams that bring us together and bind us into communities. There are roads and cars. There are houses and jobs and businesses, all woven together to make the fabric of our communities. There are financial threads that are part of that tapestry as well. For over 80 years, it's been our pleasure to be headquartered here, providing financial services to generations of our friends and neighbors. From that first savings account, to retirement planning, and all of the cars and houses and groceries in between, we keep your money local, investing it back into our communities, adding more threads to the fabric to make our communities stronger. Pacific Crest Federal Credit Union. Find your path.
You can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rorik, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Vests.
Or reflectors.
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
you got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey, Cloud Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. Today we're joined by Klamath County Sheriff Chris Kaber. Thank you for being here, sir. We have already talked about your background, finance and budget and patrol and your volunteer programs and employment and a whole bunch of other stuff. If you're just tuning in, you're going to want to watch that. Go back and check that out. In this section, we're actually going to be talking about the jail, your K-9 unit, and search and rescue. I know there's a lot of things going on there, but I want to give, before we get started, a specific shout out to Pacific Crest Federal Credit Union. They're our presenting sponsor this season. Thank you guys over there. We couldn't do this without you. So, Sheriff, you ready for some questions on the jail?
Sure.
All right, because I know it's the most visible besides the cars, the big pinkish building up there on the hill. What color is that? I'm not too sure.
I don't know.
A
I
salmon.
think it's some sort of brown.
Brown,
I'm
I
kind of
don't
colorblind.
How you talked about you're nearly fully staffed up there. How's things looking up there? How's the facility? Is it aging well? Does it need work? What's going on in the jail?
It was not aging well when it came to the infrastructure inside the jail. The building itself is fine. It's maintained very well. It's fully functional. In fact, the size is even still adequate for what we're doing right now. So, but what we found out was when I basically promoted Brian Bryson to jail commander. He's the jail commander on that side. He began to go down through a whole list of things that needed to be taken care of. And one of the first things I heard really from day one was we refer to it as the control panels, or the master control and the panels that run every door, switch, light, camera in the facility. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a lockdown facility, and it's you can use a key if you have a key to get from place to place, but all of our doors are opened electronically from a master control room, so that deputy that's in that master control room operates those things. It's what opens the door to let the prisoners in, let the people in and out, let movement throughout the jail, and monitor video of areas that maybe don't have a deputy in it at any particular time. All of that was original equipment when the jail was built in, I believe, 1987 or 88.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And so you could literally open up a circuit panel and see all the burn and scorch marks where the thing had burned out, caught fire, not worked. Well, that was unacceptable. I mean, we were really, that deferred maintenance on that system was really putting a lot of people at risk. And, you know, we're responsible for the prisoners as well. So we can't afford to have a fire in the jail, let's say, or something like that. So, you know, we worked really well with the commissioners. We were able to essentially prove to them that this was something that needed to be done, and it needed to be done that first year. And they allocated the funds to some equipment reserve monies that we had set up, and we just bit the bullet and spent the money and fixed the jail. And I got to tell you, it's 100% better. We have upgraded technology. We have support, for, you know, computer support from the person that's designed the system that we have now. So if some glitch occurs, they can remote in and they can do some of the fixing with the software and things like that.
Very nice.
And we have a lot of added features too. You know, some of our prisoners don't mix well with each other, but you know, so we have to keep them separate. Mm-hmm. And so we even have ways to remind us of which cells can be open at which time, so that people that don't mix well with each other. So it reduces our liability. You know, our liability in the jail, and not just our jail, any jail in the state of Oregon, comes with an extreme amount of liability. You know, we've got hundreds of people in there in confined spaces, and they don't all get along, and they have their own medical issues and things like that. So I apologize for rambling on. I'm really excited about the things that we're doing, so I tend to do that. So
no, it's good to hear, because a lot of people don't know those things have been done.
Yeah. Yeah, the jail. Right now, you know, I could tell you, and maybe we'll have time later on, you know, I can tell you that we're starting to have inspections from our insurance agency and other reviews that are coming in. People are now coming in to inspect. what we've done, and they're very, very impressed.
Nice. So it's kind of maybe becoming a model facility as well. Other places looking to see what they can do.
Actually, that's not a stretch to say that. There's a lot of things going on in our jail that other jails are looking at. We've had visits from jail commanders in other parts of the state that wanted to see our control panels. And when they get down there and they see what's going on with our mental health issues that we have in the jail and our partnership with KBBH and how much attention that our prisoners get with mental health issues and all of those other things, there's so many things that goes on in that community that we call the jail that are positive, that it's starting to be seen around the state. And that feels
awesome.
really, really good to me. And I got to give a lot of credit to Lieutenant Bryson for all the work he's done over there and his crew. He's got them all moving in one direction for sure.
Awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear. Do you know off the top of your head what the capacity of the jail is?
Yes, 152 people.
And what is kind of, maybe you do, maybe you don't know this, but what's kind of the average inmate on any given day? How many are in there?
This is going to sound like we don't have a full jail, but we've been running right around 135.
Okay.
But see, a lot of those beds, they're not every day. There's people in and out. There's people in there for a day. There's people in there for a year. And there's a lot of movement in and out of the jail. So I think today it was even down a little bit. You know, I get a daily report, by the way. Actually, end of every shift. There's 3 shifts a day at the jail. You know, I get a report at the end of every shift if there's been any problems or things like that. And at the end of every day count, there's how many bed days, how many total beds, and then how many are female beds. You know, the female population in the jail is one of the things that's increasing, not just here in Klamath, but around the entire state. It's a topic of discussion. And so we've been doing a lot of things I can tell you about as far as pretrial releasing people, and we have a pretrial release officer now. So everybody that comes into the jail is going to get some sort of risk score. So they're scored basically on, well, just put it simply, we want to keep the right people in jail. We can't keep everybody in, so we want to score them on their risk of reoffending or their risk to society. So they get scored, if you will. And so when we have to release people, or when we make recommendations to the court whether they should stay in jail or maybe get out on a bond, or just released on their own recognizance. So we want to make the right choices. So we've been really good at that.
Well, that's good to hear, because one of the things that we kind of get feedback on things too is we hear that it's a revolving door. The people are just constantly in and out, and the people who should be there maybe aren't there. But it's good to hear that you actually have a system in place to determine who is most at risk.
Yeah, it's not a system we came up with either, by the way. I mean, this is a verified system. In fact, we have 2 systems for scoring. I was just talking to the jail commander, and this is something I didn't know, that if the prisoner is a first-time offender from out of state, we actually use a different scoring system that's even more strict.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't even know that really until just recently. So 152. Oftentimes it's right around 135, 142. Sometimes they count the people that are in booking. We've got booking cells that could have multiple people in them as they're processing in or out.
Okay.
I can tell you that most people also don't realize that we live a long way from the prison in Salem, or the hub where we transport prisoners around. So we have transport officers that make at least 1 trip a week to Salem with a van full of prisoners, either taking them there or bringing them back. And so a lot of our expense in the jail comes just with our transport costs. We also have a jail that isn't attached to the courthouse, so every prisoner that needs to appear before the judge needs to be securely transported to the courthouse and then back. So those are all resources that they cost money, and it takes time, and it's people and a lot of coordination. And so there's a lot of moving pieces to a jail. It's not just a place to warehouse people, I guarantee you that.
Do you guys use the television system, the
Yes.
camera system as well?
Yeah.
Instead of having to take people downtown?
Yeah. So we do a lot of, I think, all first appearances before the judge, are done by the camera system. The judge has a screen in the courtroom, and we have a room set up for that in our jail. And so their first appearances most of the time are on the television, essentially, so that we don't have to transport them.
Right.
Saves a lot of time.
I bet it does.
A lot of money. Security issues, if you take people from one place to another, there's always a risk of issues arising. So we're trying to keep them in the jail as long as we can, go from there.
Well, good. Thank you for answering those questions. We're actually going to move on. I know there's a lot more questions about the jail we could talk about. That might be a whole show by itself sometime in the future. But I do want to talk about your a couple of your special units that you mentioned earlier. The first one being your canine unit, and how the dog fanciers, the community, came together after. Your old dog, the older dog, passed away.
Yep.
And we were in need of a new dog, and the dog fanciers came together, gave you a big donation to help you kickstart that project. Are you able to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we.
There they are on screen right there.
Yeah, this group of people right here kickstarted our canine program. We did have one dog that was aging, and at one time, the Klamath County Sheriff's Office had 3 working canines in the office. Slowly but surely, it whittled down to where, X passed away, and we were without a dog at all. Right about that time, the canine fanciers took it as their mission, if you will, to get us going again. I simply didn't want to ask the commissioners for general fund money to fund a dog program if I thought simply by going out to the public and seeing what kind of support we could get for that. Well, I was completely overwhelmed. The dog fancier started at $10,000 donation for the first canine. And with that came the opportunity to apply for a $5,000 grant, which we applied for and received. So a very short period of time, we're around $15,000. And then other funds started coming in. People started to contribute to the program. We had to set up a special line on them to make sure that we keep accurate count of every dollar that comes in for that thing, because we want to be completely on the up and up on that. And so we were able to purchase our first canine. I'm thinking it's about, it was late last summer, so we're looking at maybe 8 months ago. And so, and the trainer, Deputy Hoy, was assigned as the canine handler, and we began the process of trying to meld that team into something that would work well in Klamath County.
Nice. And so that the new canine, his name is Chief, and I think we have a picture of Chief as well. There's Chief. How's he working out in the sheriff's department?
Well, he's working out really well. Although we found he's a very high drive animal, so we're very we're cautiously working him into the program. So I had to learn the hard way. I was pretty naive, I tell you the truth about dogs. I've learned a lot in the last year about canines and handler and how it's supposed to work as a team, and how much effort and training goes into training one of these dogs for the long term. And I was told, I didn't know this going in, I was told that a dog like Chief, it's going to take a year to a year and a half before they're fully up and working as a team. That seems like a long time, but we're halfway there, and we've seen really good things from that team.
Nice. And does he have a specialty? Is he a drug dog? Is he able to sniff out certain things? What's Chief's specialty?
Yeah, Chief actually came from Germany. Chief is 3.5 years old. And so, when you go with a canine program, you have some choices. Do you want a drug dog? Do you want a this kind of dog or that kind of dog? A arson dog? Well, we wanted a patrol dog. Now, a patrol dog generally means they're a protection dog for the handler and for any other police officers. They do things where we don't necessarily maybe want to send a police officer in, like a building search. They assist with building searches. You find an open door and it's dark and no one's supposed to be in there. And, if we might send the dog in there to help us locate anybody that might be hiding in there. Tracking, if a suspect runs, this dog is capable of tracking that subject, either tracking it or by scent or by sight. So if someone flees and it's a felony case where someone's life is maybe at risk, and it's worthy of maybe somebody being bitten by the dog, then we use the dog. We wouldn't use it for anything less than that, really. There has to be some controls on that. We really don't want anybody being bitten, but if they do, they need to be non-complying with some very dangerous situation. So, and we have had one of those. We had an escape, and the dog was able to track and actually bring the suspect to the ground, and with no injury to the suspect. Even kind of surprised me, because I've been bit by that dog myself. So it's a remarkable tool, and it's a force multiplier. Just the dog showing up at some scenes is all it takes to gain compliance from people who didn't really want to go along with the program.
Nice. Well, it's good to hear that could be it's another alternative, not a lethal alternative per se. It's not a taser or something like that.
Right.
It's just another deterrent, another alternative. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, we could really use another one, and we're working our way towards that. When we feel very comfortable with this team and everything, then we've already, the community has been wonderful about donating to our K-9 program. We have enough funds in place right now to do it again.
Nice.
And so we're waiting for the proper time when we can do that.
Very cool. Good to hear. I'm excited to hear that there might be another K-9 coming. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So talking about one of your other units, search and rescue, we have a big county, as you had alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
It's 100 miles from border to border. It's the size of the state of Delaware for people who not really realize that, with numerous waterways. I don't even know how many water bodies we have between rivers and lakes and streams and the mountains and different areas. One of the departments I know or units you have, search and rescue, fully volunteered, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're helping all the time. It seems like, I'm at a loss for words with them. I know that we get the stories and we see what they do and they help, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. And what's your take on your search and rescue team?
Well, let me brag on them for a minute.
All right.
Okay. Our search and rescue unit is very well staffed with volunteers who spend a lot of their own time, a lot of their own money to become involved in that. And they're a very professional outfit. I've been with them on a couple of searches, although I don't go on every search, with them, but I've been out there on a couple of them. I see how they operate. I've been to their training. We also belong to a multi-county, actually multi-state unit, where it's a California-Oregon search and rescue unit, where we have basically become members with other counties, including Jackson and Josephine and Douglas County and Curry and Coos County, Del Norte, Humboldt County, Siskiyou County in California. Mm-hmm. And so the reason behind that is any one county in all of those together could be inundated with a search that might just fully deplete their resources. So we help each other. And so it's been very, very successful to be part of CORSAR with our search and rescue unit. So once a year they get together and have a joint training. But beyond that, if Sheriff Sickler in Jackson County or Sheriff Hanlon in Douglas County needs help, all they have to do is call, and we'll get as many volunteers together as we can, and we'll go help them. And we've called for help from them as well. Mm-hmm. They've helped us on searches that I've been at. It's encouraging to see the volunteers really, not just Klamath County, but even other counties show up to help. That's the kind of people we're talking about.
Awesome. And they've just recently have had to have some deployments as well. You had some with the snow that was up in the North County. We had some, your team helped out with getting people out of their homes up there.
Yep.
Last week, was it, that there was a gentleman who got his ATV stuck in Chiloquin, and you guys were actually able to use a new vehicle that was able to be purchased from an emergency declaration, right, to help that guy in Chiloquin.
Yeah, it was just kind of the, pardon the pun, but the perfect storm. We had a lot of snow, we had people trapped, we had some equipment break, we had some funding available through the Snowmobile Association for equipment, and so we purchased this ATV. I think the search and rescue commander had his eye on it. He knew it was there, and so he'd been hitting me up for it. And so actually, he said, now's the time to get it, and we should probably get it because our snowcat had broken down. It was going to be months to replace it, the one in North County. Mm-hmm. And this is a very highly transportable unit that can get just about anywhere. And so, we made the proper phone calls and got it done. And we got it on, I believe it was maybe a Thursday last week. They showed up with it on a trailer. We took it for a test drive. I actually got to drive it myself to the top of Mount McLaughlin, or not McLaughlin, excuse me. Hammaker Mountain. So okay. I'm sorry, Hammaker Mountain. So we went to Hammaker Mountain outside of Keno, and let me tell you, the snow is deep up there, but that piece of equipment just went right up to the top. The very next day, a man was stuck out in the snow out of Chiloquin, and so they went up and used that machine to bring him out.
Very cool. That's awesome to hear that it wasn't just something that was going to be sitting there waiting till next season to be used. Possibly it was used immediately.
Right away.
Well,
we assume we're going to be using it again.
Yeah. Winter's not over.
Well, people Actually, when the spring breaks up, people get themselves sometimes in worse conditions because they push it. They go a little further out than they should have, and then they find themselves stuck. Luckily, with cell phones these days, we usually hear about it pretty quick, and the people aren't necessarily overdue. They're just unable to rescue themselves. So,
Or possibly following that GPS that sent them down a road that probably isn't what should be on in the wintertime.
Seen that before too, right?
A couple of times.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff, for answering those questions. We're actually going to take a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Threads. There are many threads that run through our region. There are churches and schools and little league teams that bring us together and bind us into communities. There are roads and cars. There are houses and jobs and businesses, all woven together to make the fabric of our communities. There are financial threads that are part of that tapestry as well. For over 80 years, it's been our pleasure to be headquartered here, providing financial services to generations of our friends and neighbors. From that first savings account, to retirement planning, and all of the cars and houses and groceries in between, we keep your money local, investing it back into our communities, adding more threads to the fabric to make our communities stronger. Pacific Crest Federal Credit Union. Find your path.
You can have your car taken to the shop of your choice. So my friend had her car taken to Excel Auto Body because she heard about their reputation for excellent work. They even gave her a written warranty that's good for as long as she owns that car. So Excel Auto Body is a very smart choice.
Hi, I'm Rorik, owner of Excel Auto Body. No matter if the damage is minor or major, you'll want to choose us now. So if you are ever in an accident, you'll be ready. And remember, it's your choice what body shop you go to. Choose Excel Auto Body. It's your car, our reputation.
Slow down
Slow down and move over.
and move over. When you see lights,
Vests.
Or reflectors.
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
Do you have ours?
You got our back?
you got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Hello, friends. Brian Gailey, Klamath Falls News. Welcome back to Ask Klamath. Our final segment here today with Sheriff Chris Kaber. Thank you for being here. We've actually talked about a lot of good stuff so far about the jail, the patrol, volunteers, or search and rescue we were just talking about before the break. Lots of stuff going on. This final section, we actually open it up. We call it the soapbox and give our guests an opportunity to talk about whatever's on their mind. What's on your mind today, Sheriff?
Well, I would like to just take a couple of minutes and talk about some of the positive things that are going on with partnerships that we're continuing to develop within the basin. We have recently entered into a contract with Klamath Community College. We've actually opened up a substation on their college. This was a need that they had for security for their campus, but it was also a need for us as well. So we have a new sergeant out there that is going to take care of on-campus security issues or on-campus calls for service. He's also going to help supervise some of their non-law enforcement security folks out there. Mm-hmm. But he's going to take care of other things for us too. So he's taking some pressure off of some of our other supervisors as far as tracking our training and taking care of, we have contracts with the county school district, so we have school resource officers. They're going to answer to this particular sergeant. So we're kind of branching out a little bit, but it's a real positive thing, mainly because with the workforce development mindset that Klamath Community College has, we also have a need for reserve training academy, and so we're hoping to be integral in bringing that to the basin as well.
Oh, how cool.
And that's something that benefits not just us, but any law enforcement agency or person trying to get into law enforcement. Like some of your first questions, this would be a way to do it. We also we've been working really well with the City of Klamath Falls Police Department. We entered into agreements with them to house prisoners on some of their municipal things that they have, some of the downtown issues they have with certain people that, won't follow the judge's direction. So we actually, have an arrangement now that we can actually lodge them in our jail for certain periods of time. So it's a little bit of teeth in some of the problems that they have. People are snubbing, the citation. Mm-hmm. And so now we've worked out something with them as well.
Nice.
And so we're the legitimacy of the sheriff's office is important to us. We want to make sure that people know that we're there and that we're working on their behalf and that we're not just sitting still and not doing anything. I've got a list I carried around with me of 24 big things we're trying to do this year, and I was able to scratch a few of those off, in the last couple of weeks. We're not just sitting there doing nothing. We're constantly trying to move forward, in a way to prove ourselves to the community that we are of value to them, and we take that seriously. We are public servants, and that's where we need to be. So those are just some of the things. Brian, I honestly, I can talk for an hour straight about these things. I talk about them a lot. I'm very proud of the sheriff's office and where it is now, and I'm very thankful and supportive of the community that's really seems to be behind us. If you have any doubt in your mind whether it matters or not, if you see one of my deputies on the road and you want to wave at them, please do, because they need to be encouraged. I get encouragement because I talk to a lot of people, around, but they're out doing the actual hard work on the road, and, a little encouragement from the public that, a little appreciation goes a long way, and they are working hard. I don't have any slackers working for me.
Very good. That's good to hear. You don't want slackers in the position
No.
like what you have. That's for sure.
They work for it.
They do. I've ran into them several different times on different news stories and things, and getting to know some of your deputies out there and see what they do. Yes, they do work. They're not just driving around in their office.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap today?
I think that most people don't know. I attend a lot of meetings with a lot of our community leaders, whether it be district attorney, the commissioners, KBBH, or community corrections, or you name it, judges. And when we are in a group around the state, Klamath County is really being recognized as really a county that, at least in some of these areas, are really doing some great things. So most people might not think that. They might have the negative opinion that Klamath Falls isn't really with it. But I'll tell you what, we go to association meetings and things, and we talk about the things we're doing. And a lot of counties, even some very much larger counties than us, are jealous of our ability to cooperate with each other and work. There's a limited amount of people in the public service industry in Klamath Basin, and if we're not working together, we're working against each other. So, I have not found it a problem. There's a lot of proactive things going on with everybody.
Awesome. Well, Sheriff, I want to say thank you for everything you do, and pass the word along to your team as well, please. We appreciate here at Klamath Falls News. We appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Guys, we're going to wrap this coverage. Again, I apologize due to Facebook's issues today. We're not able to stream this live or take your live questions. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is today. But again, thanks to Sheriff Kaber for being here today. I am Brian Gailey, publisher here at Klamath Falls News. It's hosted by myself, as I said. Off camera, producing the show over there is Brandon, my son. He's helping out. It's a family operation around here. If you did not catch the entire broadcast, you can actually replay it anytime. Head over to AskKlamath.com, and you can catch any of our other 29 Ask Klamath episodes as well. If you've been entertained and you learned something, give it a like, thumbs up, share it with your friends. Let them know. On behalf of my guest, Sheriff Kaber, I'm Brian Gailey. We'll see you around the basin. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.